Hey everybody, it's Allie, and welcome to our Y&R chat for Sunday, September 29th, 2013. So at the beginning of this week, Victor calls a big meeting of all of the sharks in Genoa City to swim on up because he has a big announcement that he wants to make. So he's reserved this table at the athletic club, and Jack and Adam walk in for the meeting, and before they sit down, Jack has this great line where he says to Victor, should we all agree to be frisked for weapons before we sit down? It just really set the tone of the angst going on between these three guys. They were really out for blood in one way or another. And just as Adam and Jack sit down with Victor, wondering what it is that the mustache has to tell them, his big announcement, Noah shows up because Victor has called him there. And Victor gets up from this meeting with Adam and Jack to go off into the corner and talk to Noah, and it's clearly a stalling technique. Victor knows he has these two guys on the line, and he wants to do everything he can to just make it as dramatic as possible, to show that he's dominant, that he's the one in charge, of course. So he's standing off in the corner talking to Noah, giving him the spiel about how important family is. He says it all begins and ends with family. And he starts giving Noah, some talk about Summer and how important she is. And I'm like, Victor, what are you doing right now? Why are we talking about Summer in the midst of this? And Noah, he's probably not the brightest bulb in the box, but he's also not dim either. He's like, what do you really want to talk to me about? You're clearly stalling. I was hoping that Victor was planning on offering Noah a position at Newman Enterprises or somehow a way to get involved in the business, and he did eventually. I was actually really happy about that. Victor told him that, me and your Aunt Victoria have some things that you can do to help us out of the company, and we'd really appreciate your input, yada yada. I just think throwing Noah into that mix is gonna freshen it up. And I actually got a really good voicemail from Patricia this week, who made the point that Victor had just finished essentially having this conversation with Noah about how everything begins and ends with family, but bringing Noah into this mix is in effect pitting him against family. It's going to pit him against Adam. It's going to put him right into the middle of these swimming sharks. So I think that's a very, very true point. Just from a viewing standpoint, I think it's going to be interesting to see Noah in there. Victor's all about giving him this opportunity to become involved in the family company, but we all know that ultimately Noah is going to be another pawn in Victor's game. If Victor can't see that he is the one that's causing friction in the family, he is the one that's using family, it's totally a double standard. It's totally hypocritical. Although I would actually like to not underestimate Noah too much because we don't know him that well yet. Noah might end up having some chops that we have yet to discover. Victor could bring Noah into the mix and Noah could turn on him. You never know. I think Noah is a little bit of a wild card, and that's why I'm interested to see it. So Noah kind of agrees. Victor gives him sort of a cryptic, message, I've got some lessons to teach you, boy. Victor was never quite successful in bringing Nick into the mix and helping him and getting him to stay there, so maybe Noah is Victor's second chance in a way. I'm sure Nick is not going to be happy to know that Noah's working with Victor, but we'll see how it all plays out. Victor goes back to the table where Adam and Jack are chomping at the bit, just ready to, tired of Victor stalling, ready to hear what his big announcement is, and Victor just sits down and he says he has decided to graciously step down from Newman Enterprises. He's gonna step away and let Jack and Adam just have it. Yeah, as soon as he said that, I thought, well, I guess if you believe that, I've got some oceanfront property to sell you in Arizona. Victor, the last thing he's going to do is step away from Newman Enterprises. So Adam didn't believe it. Jack didn't believe it. The meeting breaks for the day on this note of, okay, Victor, whatever you say. And then the next day kind of opens up, and Jack is confronting Victor yet again, new day, new confrontation at the athletic club, and he's letting Victor know that all of a sudden there's this negative press surrounding Newman Enterprises. This article came out all about how Adam is running the business into the ground, and out of nowhere there are key suppliers who are not delivering, and the whole all of Newman Enterprises' supply chain is just gone all apart. And on a side note, the interesting thing, Chancellor Industries seems to be picking up the business that Newman Enterprises is losing. So we're seeing Newman Enterprises sinking and Chancellor Industries getting propped up. And Adam decides to come into the mix, and Jack and Adam try to appeal to Victor to get him to stop the siege. They know that he's behind all of this. So they tell him, this is not in your best interest. What are you going to do? Try to tank the company? Stop letting Chancellor Industries benefit from Newman's downfall. And that is when Victor, just arms crossed and with a smug look on his face, just reveals to Adam and Jack, it's all mine. That's right. Chancellor Industries is owned by me. Catherine willed it to him. Victor is the owner of Chancellor. So there's the surprise. Now we know. It's been 2 weeks of wondering who the heck that inheritor was, and wow, it was Victor. I mean, I guess it was the right choice. I can understand why Catherine would do that. I mean, yes, she could have left it to Tucker, but Tucker's not on the show right now. Catherine, the company needed to be left to someone who's on the show right now so that it can still be in play and we can still have a sense of what Chancellor Industries is. And I think that Catherine knew Victor would take care of her business. I think Catherine respected Victor as a businesswoman, Catherine respected Victor as a businessman and knew that he would take care of her company. My question is, when did Victor find out about all of this? Because as soon as Victor reveals this to Adam and Jack, Adam right away suggests that Victor knew this all along. It's been weeks of Adam suggesting that that Newman Enterprises pick up Chancellor Industries, and Victor acting very indignant, like, no, I'm not going to capitalize on my friend's death. So the whole time, did Victor know? I'm not sure. Did Catherine tell Victor a long time ago that she was planning on willing it to him? And furthermore, why was that not announced at the reading of the will? So I'm not sure if more is going to be revealed on the whys and the hows of Victor coming into ownership of Chancellor Industries, but for now, it appears that Victor is once again coming out on top, although the caveat is, for now, Chancellor Industries is coming along swimmingly, doing really well. I'm thinking that maybe Noah will go to work for Chancellor. Maybe that's where he will play a role. Maybe that will cause some friction between Noah and Devon, considering Chancellor is kind of Devon's family legacy. Maybe Devon will resent the Newmans having their sticky little fingers in that. For now, it seems like Newman Enterprises, though, is down, not necessarily out. Victor is certainly determined to get it back, but for now, it's in Jack and Adam's hands to deal with the mess that Victor has created. It's almost as if Victor was like, you want it? Here, have it, and he trashes it. But there was this choice little moment at the end of this series of shows, series of scenes for the week, where Jack and Victor have a moment alone together, and Jack just looks at Victor and says, congratulations. You may think that you've won, but eventually you're going to realize how much you've lost, kind of referring to Adam, like, okay, way to go, you may have won this battle, but you have done more detrimental damage to your relationship with your son. And Victor just looks at Jack and says, how long will it take you to realize I never lose? And I thought that was such a great moment. I want to just bottle it up and just be able to crack that puppy open and inhale it whenever I want to. That felt like the essence of the Jack and Victor feud right there. And Victor does never seem to lose. Although later at the condo, Jack and Adam are alone together, and Jack tells Adam, you know, this is a bad situation right now, but don't think of it as a loss. Think of it as you having a chance now to build a future for you and your son. You know, it's kind of Newman Enterprises is not looking good right now, but don't look at it as a negative. Look at it as a positive, as a way for you to build it from the ground up, as your father did. And I think that's very true. I think really, although Victor won this battle, what he really did was give Adam a chance to rise to the surface victorious and then rub it back in Victor's face. In the wake of Dylan's baby napping episode, Chelsea and Adam return to the warehouse where she's still living, for the moment anyway. They're both very, very bitter with one another. Chelsea, she still blames Adam for pulling away after the loss of their first child, which is a very valid feeling. He did do that to her, and I can understand, and I could at the time, why she would, have been upset with him for that, although she chose to leave him. As a result, she made it about larger issues. She made it about Newman Enterprises and Adam wanting to have a relationship with his father, which is not fair. I think it's a little bit of both. I think Chelsea is mostly wrong with a little bit of right. The thing that really bothered me, though, was that she was kind of below the belt with Adam. She was saying to Adam, the only thing you've ever contributed to this child was his ability to go blind. Well, that is really unfair. She never gave Adam an opportunity to contribute anything else, and to blame him for a genetic disorder that he has felt really, really raw and mean, and Adam just takes it. I think he handled himself very well with her, because I can't imagine that he doesn't want to just strangle the life right out of her when she's saying something like that. Really piling on the guilt. It's almost as if that's what Chelsea's weapon is at this moment. I think she knows that Adam does have still a soft spot for her, and she really is doing a good job of exploiting it. So they're at this warehouse where she's still living with Dylan. She must know on some level that she's going to need to get out of there. And Adam gives her an ultimatum. He, at this point, could take the child, probably get full custody and cut her out of the child's life forever. But he gives her an option that if that doesn't work for her, if she wants to continue to have a relationship with Connor, she can come move in with him. Which is annoying to me as a viewer, because I don't want them to get back together. But, on the same wavelength, I do understand that Adam wants to keep her close. He wants to keep her where he can see her and keep an eye on her. And in reality, Chelsea doesn't have much of a choice in the matter. She has to say yes. She has to go with him. It's either this or Adam pushes forward and probably gets full custody. And in a way, it's very fitting. It's as if this is her punishment. She's being sentenced to now having to live with Adam. This is what she wanted to avoid all along, and now it's her worst case scenario. She's completely sacrificed her independence, and she's really at his mercy. So she goes to live with him. This is really what she should have done all along. I don't see any reason why Adam wouldn't have been somewhat rational and reasonable if she just would have told him that she was pregnant in the first place. He's being fairly tolerant of her, considering everything that she's done to him now, given what she's done to him. So I don't see why she couldn't have just done this in the first place. Ugh. They go back to the condo and they bicker. She's bitter. She doesn't want to be there. He can't believe what she did to him, but I think he does have the child's best interest in mind, and I think on some level does know that he needs his mother. So Chelsea is really being quite mean. She gets very indignant with Adam, and she says, you know, I tried to tell you that you were the father of Connor. I tried to tell you in the hospital after you were shot. In fact, I did tell you, but he was unconscious. And she got all turned off because the second he woke up, he said Sharon's name. Big whoop, Sharon was the last person he saw in the hospital before he went unconscious. Of course she would still be on his mind when he came back out of you know, having passed out from having been shot. So Chelsea was just using that. I think Chelsea she didn't want Adam to be part of the baby's life, and so she was kind of using any excuse she could to keep him out of it. But the weird thing I felt about this dynamic between Chelsea and Adam is that Chelsea had Adam apologizing within minutes. She tells him she tried to tell him about the baby in the hospital and that he said Sharon's name, and Adam was sorry immediately. Why is Adam sorry? Why is Adam sorry that Chelsea lied to him? I cannot believe it. And I could not believe how Chelsea went on to play this victim role, like, you did me wrong, Adam. Well, boo-hoo, Chelsea. You're not the victim here. I clearly missed the part where Chelsea became the victim. As far as my perspective goes, Chelsea is the problem here. Chelsea is the liar. The onus of all of this lies on Chelsea. Ugh. Whatever. It doesn't matter at the end of the day what Adam did to you, Chelsea. It wasn't bad enough to keep his child from him. You knew what you were getting into when you got involved with Adam, and he knew what he was getting into when he got involved with her. Their whole basis of their relationship was, yeah, we're both kind of bad, but we're trying to be good. So there was no bait and switch. They both kind of knew who they were getting. So I don't know, maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe I'm being too on Adam's side. I'm not sure. You guys, you'll have to tell me. I try to ride the middle ground a little bit and try to see everything from everyone's perspective, but it is hard to see the perspective of a woman who kept a man away from his child, for crying out loud. So anyway, it's a new day. There are stuffed animals all over Adam's condo. The condo has now been totally converted into baby land. And there's, this really cute moment where Adam is there amongst all of Connor's little toys, and he's obviously so happy to be a father, and I'm really happy for him. I wish that I could enjoy Adam being a father. I just wish Chelsea wasn't the mother, I guess. I would love to see Adam really enjoying and connecting and bonding with his son. It's just so tainted by the lie. I feel like Chelsea tainted this pool, and it's ruining my ability to enjoy Adam's fatherhood. Chelsea is a prisoner at this point. Not only is she sort of being forced to stay with him, but he's having her followed everywhere she goes. He's got someone tailing her, and she comes back and she's all toward Adam about that. But how are you surprised? Of course he's having you tailed. Of course he would be afraid that you would skip town. That's exactly something that you would do. So come on, Chelsea. I cannot connect with this woman. As hard as I try, I cannot seem to connect with her. But very interesting development in this storyline. Adam has arranged this doctor's appointment with a specialist to look at Connor's eyes. They take the child into the doctor, and wow, the doctor reveals that the child does not have retinitis pigmentosa. The child is going blind. There's no question about that. The initial doctors were correct. But it's not retinitis pigmentosa. It's not genetic. So Connor did not even get this from Adam. He, in fact, has some kind of keloids, like scarring on his eyes that is probably a result of a traumatic birth. Is that crazy or what? Connor is going blind because of a traumatic birth? I've never even heard of that. So essentially, it's a result of, Chelsea trying to hide how far along she was in her pregnancy and waiting and staying at this dirty, dingy warehouse that's not appropriate for a child too long, not just going to the hospital and giving birth when she should have given birth the first time. No, she goes back to the warehouse and she lets the baby be delivered by Dylan, by someone who's not a professional. I'm sure Dylan did the best that he could do at the time, but Adam was so mad about that, and he even said it like, you did this. It was all at the beginning of the week, Chelsea blaming Adam. The only thing you ever contributed to this child was his blindness, and now it's not Adam's fault, it's Chelsea's fault, and it's because of her life choices. I can't even believe that. And Chelsea, being the selfish person that she is, her first thought was realizing that she admitted the truth to Adam for nothing. If Connor did not inherit this eye disorder from Adam, she never really had to tell Adam. That was her first thought. It was not, it didn't feel like as much that the guilt was sinking in for what she did to contribute to the child's blindness. It was more like, I pulled the ripcord for no reason. I let Adam back into my life for no reason. That's her number one focus, is not wanting to be anywhere near him. So I thought that was crazy. I don't know. You guys are going to have to tell me how crazy you thought that was. So they go home. Chelsea is actually alone in the condo for a moment, and I'm sure she's got a billion things on her mind. She is looking for a teddy bear that is Connor's, and she opens up a cabinet, and she finds a box. She pulls it out, opens up the box, and it's that blanket that Adam gave to her with this beautiful letter to his child. It was a blanket that he, I believe, had bought in Kansas, or it was a blanket that reminded him of one that he had as a child. And this was a gift he wanted to give to Chelsea's child, that he thought was his child, that he had an instinct was his child. And Chelsea threw it out. She gave it to charity. She wanted to abolish any type of memory that had to do with Adam whatsoever. And Adam must have, I guess, gone to where, to the Goodwill or whatever, and found the blanket and rebought it. He had to have done that on purpose. It wouldn't have just come back into his life. Like, he must have seen that she was giving it away and went out and purposely went to find it. That's very, very sentimental. That definitely makes me feel very, very bad for Adam. And I do think that was an awful moment for Chelsea. She pulls the blanket out and sort of puts it on top of the child. It was a gift from the child's father that she threw away like it was garbage. And in this moment, she takes the blanket, puts it over the baby. And I think that she began to realize how awful what she did to Adam really was. I felt like that was maybe going to mark a turning point in her attitude toward Adam. Maybe she will realize that he wasn't the big bad wolf after all. The only thing is, it just kills me because I feel like if Adam forgives her and they go on to be this honky-dory happy family, I am gonna puke. Avery takes a broken Dylan back to her apartment, and she tries to console him. She tries to make him feel better. She even mentions his relationship with Chelsea and says, Chelsea still loves you. I know she does. And Dylan doesn't want to hear any of that. He doesn't want to hear about how Chelsea was concerned about him when he was having his episode. He wants to be, I think, done with it. He wants to distance himself from it mentally. And I was kind of surprised that Avery would bring that up. I think it shows that she's not necessarily having an overt desire to get back together with Dylan. I think that Avery wants Dylan to be happy, even if that means it's not with her, and if that means that it's, pushing Chelsea and Dylan back together. So there was kind of a brief moment where Avery tried, but realized that Dylan was not having any of it, doesn't want to have anything to do with Chelsea, completely resents her. Dylan is so oblivious on every single level. He didn't even realize that Avery didn't get married. He, for one moment, comes out of his grief haze and says, "Why aren't you with Nick? Didn't you just get married? Why are you not living with your husband now?" He's so caught up in his own agony that he didn't realize she didn't get married, and she told him that. And although she also tried to play it off, Dylan kind of started realizing that it was partly about him. He didn't really dwell on that. They're not really discussing their relationship. Dylan and Avery are both hurting separately, and I think it's probably going to be another couple weeks before we see them coming together. But there was this really crazy scene where Dylan has this nightmare. I mean, the whole PTSD episode from last week was not just one and done. There's more to it. So he's laying down for a nap on the couch, and he has this nightmare again. It's another flashback, and he's calling out, and even he wakes up out of it and his eyes are still open and he's calling out. It's not a small deal. What's going on? This meant the disorder that he has is it's deep, it's big, it's not a small thing. And Avery kind of comes over to help him, and he ends up grabbing her hard, and while still in this flashback moment, screaming, yelling, thinking he's on the battlefield. And Avery just says to him, "You're hurting me." And he sort of snaps out of it, and whoa, I mean, that was intense. "You're hurting me." Oh, I kind of loved it in a weird way. I don't know why. Just, I don't know. I guess I kind of am liking Dylan being a little darker. I don't know. I was tired of him just being the good guy and only the good guy. So in a way, this is at least more interesting. I mean, not like I wanted him to hurt her or something, but just it was a little bit more interesting. And sad. I think now Dylan knows that Avery is kind of the one person that he can lean on and can trust and wants to help him, but now he's hurt her. He realizes that it's not just, Connor that he hurt. He's become a danger to the other people around him. And that day's show ended off with this song that I don't know if you guys know this, but it was written by Steve Burton and the guy who played Lucky on General Hospital, who I think is Luke and Laura's son. And so they wrote this song for the show, and it was called "You Killed Romeo," or I don't know if they wrote it for the show, but it was called "You Killed Romeo," and it was playing over the end of that day's show. And I thought, well, that's really appropriate, because it is. It's like Chelsea killed the Romeo in him. As soon as he discovered the truth about Connor's paternity, it was all over for him. It was done. Romeo was done, and now it's this new version of him, and I kind of like it. He is trying to get help. He has scheduled an appointment with a therapist, but I got, in the voicemail I got from Patricia, made a really, really good point that if Dylan really wanted to be a good father, he should have gotten treatment for the PTSD sooner, especially since Chelsea had said that he had night terrors. Sometimes he wakes up in the middle of the night screaming, and it's terrifying for her. So it didn't just start. I mean, he's been having the flashbacks and the issues in milder form ever since he came back on the show. So why wasn't he getting treatment for that before? Because he is becoming a danger to the people around him. It's kind of a very interesting twist. I think Dylan is now in this mindset, though, where he wants to get better all alone. He doesn't want help. But Avery wants to help him. She ended up calling Stitch in to help Dylan, and they both showed up at the hospital for his first appointment. They weren't in the room with him, but they were there to support him through his first therapy appointment. Unfortunately, Dylan did not have a very good experience with the therapist. They just weren't jiving, so that didn't go very well. Now, Adam and Chelsea were at the hospital with Connor. at the exact same time that Dylan was there for his therapy appointment, and they ran into each other in the waiting room hall, and there was this confrontation between Avery, Dylan, and Stitch kind of off in the sideline, and then Adam and Chelsea. Now, I'm so mad because the episode that was on cut out. Like, I didn't get to see that confrontation. I can only tell you what I sort of assumed happened. I'm really mad about that. My version of the episode just cut off and picked up sort of midway into that confrontation. But I did sort of see the tail end of Avery pouncing on Chelsea and saying this is your fault, which it is all your fault, Chelsea. You're the one who set this into motion. So that was kind of great. And then there was also, I did see a moment where at the end of it, where Chelsea just looked at Dylan and said, I do still love you, but then she, walks off to go be with Adam, and she did tell him that she's living with Adam temporarily, but she doesn't have to make excuses. He's the baby's father, and Dylan is pulling away. But, really, Chelsea she didn't make any real effort over the past week to get together with Dylan or even talk to him. I mean, he's still her husband. So that all ended. It was weird because Dylan also, I saw, tried to give Adam these parenting tips. It was awkward. Dylan's like, hey, just Adam, I gotta tell you, the child likes being fed if you put him in the nook of your elbow, just kind of like you're already doing. It was like Dylan wanted to pass off the watering and care instructions for the child, and Adam was pretty much already there. I can't help feeling bad for everybody in this situation except for Chelsea. Dylan is totally lost. He lost his son. He lost his wife, who he thought that he could trust the most. That was supposed to be his best friend. And now he has to go back to this empty warehouse to live. It was full of a wife and child, and now it's just lonely. He knows that he needs to get a divorce, and luckily Stitch is there with him, kind of guiding him through this process and staying with him, and I think that that's exactly what Dylan needs. He should not be there alone with Connor's leftover toys and the crib that he built and the marriage proposal written in paint on the wall. I was so glad to see Stitch come back and bring Dylan a can of paint and a beer, and they painted over the marriage proposal on the wall. It's a good start. I appreciate that they did that, but Stitch, you're a medical professional. You probably should not be giving alcohol to a guy who just had a traumatic PTSD episode. It's not really the best solution, dude. Maybe it's a guy thing or whatever, but as soon as Stitch handed Dylan that beer, I'm like, alcohol, really? He should probably be on medication. But Stitch does end up telling Dylan that he's going to hook him up with a different therapist, somebody he can connect with. I wonder if it's going to be Sharon's therapist. Stitch said it was Dr. Bailey, I want to say, or something like that. I wonder if there's any chance it's Sharon's therapist. That would be fantastic. I think that's a really good idea, actually. Well, guess what? Stitch got a job at Genoa City Memorial. Whoa, what do you know? So, looks like we may be seeing a little bit more of him. Stitch is going to be staying around. I think it's too bad that he has a wife and kids because I think that Stitch and Avery could make a cute couple if she and Dylan don't work out. Or there's also a little bit of internet buzz right now that Stitch may be playing an even more important role on the canvas. Could it be that Stitch will turn out to be Nikki's long-lost son? Nick's world is crumbling, and Sharon is right there to comfort him. Faith is thrilled that he and Avery are not getting married anymore, but she's sad for her father, and Nick just got caught up in a lot of mess. He's Still hurting, Sharon decides to try to help him take the family out for ice cream. So they're sitting there at Chancellor Park having ice cream, trying to pretend to be a little happy family. It's making Sharon very happy, but Nick is miserable. Later, he goes back to the park on his own, and he's just sitting alone on a park bench with a wilted rose from the ceremony that never happened. And he's just imagining what his wedding day would have looked like. And it really is heartbreaking. And then it's contrasted with Sharon, thrilled. Sharon could not be more smiley at the fact that Nick's marriage never ended up happening. It's like Nick's anguish is Sharon's glimmer of hope. And I have to ask myself, is that really love? I mean, obviously Sharon is mentally ill, but at the same time, how can she take any level of joy from Nick's pain? It's very sad, very sad. And I don't think that doesn't feel like love to me. Nick ends up having a conversation with Victor. Victor tells him, don't ignore new possibilities. When a door closes, another one opens. So keep your eyes out for new possibilities of love. And just as he's having that conversation with Victor, Sharon is at his house making him dinner with Faith, using it as another excuse to try to perk him up, and Avery opens the door. She saw that Nick's car wasn't there, didn't realize Sharon was going to be there, and comes in just to pick up a few more of her things. And Sharon is absolutely rubbing it in. She loves being the woman that's still there for Nick. She feels like Avery wasn't able to give Nick what he wanted, but Sharon's still here. And it was this really awkward confrontation, especially because Faith was there. Faith is so happy that Avery is out of Nick's life. And Avery tried to kneel down and say to Faith, I'm sorry that we couldn't be better friends. Avery tried to be the reasonable and rational one, but Faith is just like, goodbye, Avery, whatever, get out of our lives. And just as Avery's picked up a couple of things and is ready to walk out the door, Sharon cannot resist taking a jab at her, and Sharon just says to Avery in this bitchy voice, goodbye, Avery. Just like, Sharon is such a petulant child. I could not believe how immature Sharon was being in that moment. I should be able to believe it, but it was so crazy, like high schoolish. And Avery just turned around and it's like, that's it. I'm not going to take this from you. I've been through enough in the past 24 hours. The last thing I'm going to let you do is push me around. So I was really happy, and I got a voicemail this week from Connor, who was also very happy to see Avery stand up for herself and get up in Sharon's face and not take it, not just put her tail between her legs and walk out the door. Avery confronted Sharon, and she said, you're not going to get what you want out of this. Just because I'm not with Nick doesn't mean that you're going to be with Nick. And, you did everything that you could to try to ruin our relationship. You never stopped loving Nick. But Sharon just came back at her with, just all of the daytime cattiness that she could muster, and said, the problem was that you never stopped loving Dylan. Ooh, burn. Avery exploded at that. They're yelling at each other, and Nick walks in on raised voices, like all of this blonde on blonde fur flying all over the place. Probably not quite the blonde on blonde that Nick would have imagined, but it was obvious that there was tension and a confrontation between the two women, and Avery tries to have a little moment alone with Nick, maybe to resolve their feelings, but Sharon is hovering. So Avery just kind of leaves, and Sharon is still there ready to play like, I'm still here for you, Nick. Yeah, she's bad. Oh, bad Avery, but look who's here. I've got dinner for you. And Nick's just like, what are you doing here, Sharon? I told you to stop. You gotta stop doing this. Stop making me dinner. Stop trying to be here all the time. You need to give me a little bit of breathing room. And Sharon, she had a moment where she kind of flipped out, like, you're only saying this because of what Avery said, aren't you? Just very childlike and weird. And then Nick kind of looked at her like, Sharon? Are you okay? She snaps back into reality and she starts being real calm again and, trying to talk her way back into his life. And he just says, you gotta back off. I need some time to myself to figure out what it is that I want. And he kind of goes away, and Sharon realizes that what she's doing is not really working. In fact, she has this moment to herself where she says, it was all for nothing. She believes that all of the work she's put in toward tearing Nick and Avery apart, toward, switching Summer's paternity, everything that she's done to try to make Nick open to her has not worked. He's not open to her. And so she has a little mini breakdown, which I'm sure will continue next week. Now, when Avery gets home, Summer goes to visit her, and Summer let loose on Avery pretty hard. Summer has decided that she wants to take Oliver's job offer. She wants to move to LA. She consulted with Courtney, and Courtney said, no, don't go, you shouldn't leave. But then Kyle encourages her to go, tells her that she needs to do what she needs to do to, help her career and get her mind off of what's going on. I think Kyle sees that Summer's getting caught up in the Jack and Victor feud, so he tells her she should leave. Hey, by the way, Kyle needs a haircut. I feel like maybe I could find Kyle slightly attractive if he would just cut that hair. It doesn't look right. After not seeing him for a couple of weeks, he comes back on screen and all I can see is this bad hair, which I'm sure that he thinks looks fantastic. But anyway, yeah, that needs to be cut. But anyway, so Summer is thinking that she's gonna move to LA. She feels totally betrayed by everyone in her life. She tells Avery as much. I thought you were supposed to be the one I could trust, and now you left my dad at the altar. How could you hurt him like that? And Summer really, really laid into Avery pretty hardcore, and I felt bad for Avery. I never heard Avery say that she was perfect. I think Avery was always pretty down on Phyllis for cheating on Nick and everything that she did, and then Avery tried not to do that. I don't think Avery did anything purposely to hurt Nick, so I kind of felt bad for her, and Summer was just there sort of rubbing salt in the wound, saying, Mom she'd be so happy to hear that you guys aren't getting married, she'd probably come out of the coma. Ouch! I just felt that was a little bit harsh. Summer is feeling very selfish, and maybe if everything else wasn't going on between her and Victor and Jack, she wouldn't have had such a harsh reaction, but she just really felt betrayed by someone who she thought, she could trust. So Avery's down, everybody's down, Nick is down. Nick ends up, leaving Sharon at his house and goes to the park, and I was very surprised to see Nick sit down on a park bench and pull out a flask. Wow, Nick doesn't usually drink. I mean, of all of the guys that usually drink on the show, Nick's usually not one of them. So he pulls out a flask and takes a swig, and then separately, Dylan kind of saunters into the park, sits on a separate park bench, and he's got his own bottle in a brown paper bag. So these two guys are just sitting there separately drinking, and I'm telling you, like, alcohol plus testosterone plus a beautiful woman, I can feel a beatdown coming. Paul and Nikki are still on the hunt for Nikki's long-lost child, and they are in Winnetka looking for clues, and they end up having to stay in this dingy hotel room, and it was kind of funny to see Nikki and Paul together. Nikki is used to the grand lifestyle, and here she is in this yucky hotel room, and Paul makes a joke about there being bed bugs in the bed, and Nikki freaks out, and Paul just tells her not to be so spoiled. And I kind of liked that. I sort of like that Paul is very real with Nikki. Nikki needs some comic relief because she is on edge right now. She feels at any moment her son is going to walk through the door, and they do get a knock on their hotel room door, and this guy shows up, and he's got blonde hair, and he looks at Nikki, and Nikki's like ready to welcome him into the family, but he was actually just there to drop off a scarf that she left at the church. Now, I got a voicemail from Gary this week who mentioned, and I totally agree, that guy, whoever that blonde guy was like a Doug Davidson lookalike. Did he not look like Paul could have just spit him out of his mouth? I don't know if there was any kind of relation or whatever, or maybe that was just me, I don't know, making some kind of weird connection, but yeah, he did look a lot like Paul. I wonder if there was any relation there. You know, by the way, Gary also mentioned in his voicemail, just randomly, about one time when Melody Thomas Scott had left the show for a while, and I want to say this was like in the early 2000s or something. She left the show for a while, and she came back with like dark hair. Do you guys remember Nikki having like dark, almost black hair? I vaguely remember this, and I was so curious. It just came out of nowhere, and I was so curious. I went searching around on the internet to try to find a photo of Nikki with dark hair, and I could not find one single photo. Do you guys remember Nikki having dark hair? And if so, does anybody have a photo? If so, you got to go to yrchat.com and just go to the forum and post a photo of Nikki with dark hair, because I want to see it. I feel like I need to see that because it was so short-lived but so interesting. So if anybody has a photo, I want to relive that moment. So okay, back onto the storylines. Paul and Nikki are in this hotel room. Obviously that guy was not her son. She's on edge, but she sort of laughs it off. She needs just to have some levity in this moment where everything is so very serious. And there was a lot of levity with it. Paul is on the floor in a sleeping bag, and Nikki is up on the bed, and they're kind of chatting back and forth, getting ready to go to sleep for the night, and it almost had this like slumber party feeling to it, and I really have been enjoying their friendship and Paul's support throughout this. Paul, in the middle of the night, ended up climbing up onto the bed. His back was too stiff. He cannot be sleeping on the floor at his age, so he tried to be a gentleman, but he was having some lower back pain, so in the middle of the night he climbed up into the bed with Nikki, and she wakes up and was a little bit shocked, and they laughed about it, and Nikki is lying to Victor. She's telling him that she's off working on a charity mission somehow, and now here she is looking for a long lost son, sleeping in a bed with Paul. It's not looking good. Victor ended up calling her on her cell phone, and she answers and tries to lie to him, tries to cover, while Paul's in the background kind of klutzing around, making noise, and it had this sort of affairish type feel. There's no way that Victor's gonna find out about this and be very happy, but Nikki has quite a lot of heartache coming her way. The nun from last week who delivered Nikki's baby and told her she had a son ended up going to the doctor and wanted to go see Nikki after this doctor's appointment. She felt refreshed. I don't know if they gave her something or she talked through some kind of therapy or something, but suddenly she wanted to see Nikki and wanted to tell her that she remembered some more information. So the nun tells her that she remembered the name of the parishioner who she gave the child to, Penelope Wayne. And this information led the priest who we met last week goes back to the church, and he goes through the records for Penelope Wayne, and it led him to the information that unfortunately this child, Penelope Wayne's child named Peter, died at age 7. He had drowned in a creek. So there's this moment where Nikki realizes that her child is dead. And the misery continues. Nikki's misery is never ending. It's like just when you think you get to the bottom of her misery, there's more misery. I don't know how she's gonna hide this grief from Victor. She's obviously hurting. She had imagined that the child had gone on to live a happy life, and now to know that he died in this horrible, tragic accident. Paul is being there for her as much as he possibly can. In fact, he did kind of pull Nikki in close and tell her, I have no doubt that your son is in heaven with Catherine. And that notion did me in. I thought, I did cry. I was able to squeeze out a couple tears in that moment. And they decided to go back to Genoa City. The work is kind of done. The child is dead. The trail is cold. Nikki goes to Chancellor Park and she wants to tell Catherine everything. So Paul takes her there and she's telling Catherine out loud where the trail led her. And Paul ends up getting a call from that lawyer. The lawyer had died, but apparently whoever took over his practice still had the adoption records. And he sent them to Paul. And Paul tells Nikki he now has these records. Does Nikki want to look at them? And Nikki is at first sort of interested. She is intrigued by the idea of possibly talking to the adoptive mother of her child, maybe learning about what the child liked. But she eventually decided she didn't want to open up all that pain again for the adoptive mother. And there was a really, really interesting and great moment where Nikki is talking to Paul again about the fact that she has not told Victor everything that's going on. And she made an interesting point about how Victor was left at an orphanage as a child, and he really villainized, rightfully so, his mother over this. Victor was left at an orphanage to grow up without a mother, and now Nikki did something similar, and Nikki was worried about how Victor would feel about her knowing that she did something similar, that she left a child, which, it's not exactly similar. Nikki didn't just abandon the child. She did make sure that the child was going to be cared for, but I can see where the similarity is there as well. So I thought that was an interesting twist, and it sort of made me understand a little bit more why Nikki doesn't want to tell Victor, why she's so hesitant to do so. So she ultimately decides she wants to put it behind her and not pursue anything more about her son if he's dead. But is it really over is the question. Because we see a scene at the end of Friday's show where Paul is looking at the file that he got from the lawyer, and he just looks down at the information and he says, "What the hell?" So something is up. I don't know if maybe the records got confused somehow, or if the nun got confused somehow, but I think it's just exactly like Victor said earlier in the week on an unrelated matter, that things are just not always as they seem. Delia is still practicing for her role in the school play as the Wicked Witch of the West, and she's at the coffee house with Chloe and Kevin, and she's practicing with this fake Toto doll, and she's talking about how she really wants a real Toto, a real dog, and what do you know, Billy pops up in the background and he's bought her a real dog, and there's this really kind of poignant moment where Kevin is just sitting there with the fake dog while Chloe and Billy and Delia are there with this real dog that he's just bought her, and Kevin has this feeling of knowing that he's not the real thing. Billy is going to always be Delia's father. He's always going to be an outsider, and as much as he wants to be with Chloe and wants to have a role in Delia's life, and he certainly does, he just knows that he's not the real deal. So that was kind of a sad moment for Kevin. Now, way more interesting twist and development. Guess who's back? Carmine! Carmine is at the Genoa City jail, and there's this confrontation between him and Kevin out in the workroom, and Carmine just has this smug look on his face, like he thinks he's gonna get away with everything. He's making little jokes here and there, and he's just very smug, and Kevin is concerned about this. Kevin has a feeling that Carmine's got something up his sleeve, and he does, and I really feel interested by Carmine now. It's almost like Ricky syndrome. I mean, Paul's son Ricky, I spent so many months, could not stand this guy. And then at the very end, I kind of started warming up to him, like, all right, he's kind of a funny villain. I kind of get it now. And then they killed him. So I can only assume that Carmine is back now to be killed. And it figures, because right now he's interesting to me now. So separately, Lauren and Michael are at Chancellor Park. Oh yes, they are making very good use of that set. They're meeting up with Fenn, who's out on a day pass from rehab, and they're just kind of reconnecting and talking about how well Fenn is doing and how bad things had gotten between them and their family, but they're working it out now. And Fenn even had a moment where he recognized that it wasn't all them. The problems that they had in the family were fueled by Carmine. He played a major role in that. So Fenn, although he's doing better, is still quite aware that Carmine was a villain in all of this mess. Now, Michael reveals that Lauren is going to be receiving an award. Can you believe it? Lauren is going to be named Genoa City's Businesswoman of the Year. I am telling you guys, that sex tape did wonders for her career. It really boosted it up. I mean, I think it's a good idea. Shoot, make a sex tape and then psh, bing, bang, boom, Businesswoman of the Year. I'm going to go that strategy. That's so ridiculous. But it totally works in conjunction with the fact that Carmine has escaped. Alex gets a call. Carmine was being transferred to another facility and he escaped. So Carmine is out and on the loose. And Fenn is actually going to be getting out of rehab next week. He clearly still blames Carmine. So in my head, I think, well, Carmine didn't die a couple of months ago when we all thought signs were pointing to him dying, but he might be dying soon. I think that it's pretty clear that there's going to be a culmination at Lauren's receiving of the Businesswoman of the Year award. Carmine was, his last scene was a close-up of his face looking at the newspaper, seeing this announcement that Lauren was going to be receiving this honor, and Carmine saying, well, yes, I will be in attendance, or something of the like, yes, I will be there. So Carmine is gonna be at this event and he's gonna cause trouble. I can only assume someone's gonna get killed. What do you think? Is someone gonna die over this? Or maybe Carmine will just get rearrested, or maybe he'll come to cause trouble and then escape again. I'm telling you guys, Carmine is the new Sheila. Noah and Tyler are having coffee at Crimson Lights, and Tyler can't stop himself from going on and on about how cute Abby is. And Noah's like, you're falling for her. Am I gonna have to start calling you Uncle Tyler soon? Which I thought was a funny line, but the fact that Tyler is insisting that that's never gonna happen, oh no, I'm not a settling down type of guy, just tells me that they probably are. Tyler and Abby were at Nick and Avery's non-wedding last week, and there was kind of this awkwardness between them of, hey, who's gonna get married next? So I'm assuming that Tyler and Abby are going to fall in love and get married soon, considering how much Tyler seems to be railing against it. Now, Tracy and Abby had this kind of funny rat misadventure this week. Tracy is staying with Abby, and the two girls discovered a rat's nest at her house, so they scurry away from the house to have the exterminator there, and they go to stay at the Abbott mansion and relax. And Abby's trying to be still the good hostess, so she decides to arrange a relaxing massage in the Abbott living room. And so there's this kind of funny switcheroo where Abby calls Tyler over to the house, and he walks in the door, and it's very dimly lit, and there's clearly someone on the massage table in the living room, and the masseuse is standing there doing his job, and Tyler just pays the masseuse off, just hands him a couple of bills. The masseuse walks away, which is totally unprofessional. He left his table and everything, just walks away. And Tyler is rubbing on the person's feet on the table, only to realize that it's actually Tracy. Abby is coming down from the stairs like, what is going on there? Tracy is mortified. I thought it was fabulous. I wish that Tracy would steal Tyler from Abby. That would be the ultimate awesome storyline. Tracy ended up having this kind of tense phone call with Steve early in the week, so I feel like Tracy needs a slow poke. Why not? Why not hook her up with Tyler? I don't feel any heat at all with Abby and Tyler. It's just not working for me at all. But I am curious to know what you guys think. We've been tiptoeing around the Abby and Tyler relationship for weeks now, and I really want to know, what do you like this couple? How do you feel about this couple? So I put a new poll up at whyourchat.com. That's whyourchat.com. If you want to go to the website and vote in the poll, tell me, once and for all, Abby and Tyler, are they hot or not? Clearly you can see where I fall on that spectrum, but I want to hear from you guys. If you think that Abby and Tyler have some heat, I want to know about it. Convince me. Tell me why. They ended up having a little bit of sexy time after Tracy left, and Abby made the mistake of saying the L word. She told, she didn't say like, I love you, Tyler, but she just sort of playfully said, I love you, which made Tyler very, very uncomfortable. And I'm just like, hey, come on, Tyler, you need to drop Abby. You need to tap that Tracy ass. Forget about the boring blonde waif. How about going for Tracy? How about going for a woman with a little meat on her bones? Kane and Lily are very proud of themselves for catching Anne/Hilary in the act. They caught her on audio last week. They thwarted her plan to drug Kane, and now they know everything. They know that of Mason's involvement. They know that she's the blogger. There's no way out of it. So they go to the police station, and they first revealed the truth to Neil. And it was just kind of funny to see Lily and Kane just playing the audio recording while Neil and Leslie are listening, and Lily and Kane just have this great look on their face, just like, yeah, we did it. Are you proud of us? Are you proud of us? I mean, Lily did look really good in her flowy white short dress. Lily looked amazing in that scene. I wish I had that body. But it was just kind of funny to see them acting like, yeah, we solved the mystery. And Neil was shocked. He didn't think that was necessarily the case. He didn't believe that Anne and Hilary were one and the same. But as soon as he did, he ended up confronting Hilary. They kind of set her up to meet at Chancellor Park yet again, and she thought she was meeting Kane there, but Neil actually showed up, and he confronts her straight up. He says, essentially, I know who you are, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what happened to your mother. And Hilary I think she was maybe not expecting it. I think she thought she got one over on Kane. She thought she was on top of the situation, but she was surprised that Neil was just giving her this straight talk, and she really didn't say much. She definitely denied, kind of played the I don't know what you're talking about sort of game, but she was very quiet, and Neil just left it at that. Just sort of, I'm sorry, I'm gonna leave now. I don't know if, since Lily and Kane were at the police department, I don't know if Hilary's gonna end up getting arrested. Certainly, I would think that would give them enough evidence to arrest her, but before that happens, if that even happens, Hilary ended up going straight to GC Buzz, a reporter there, with another story about Neil, tells them she's got like this amazing story, all this juice and gossip about Neil. Who knows if it will be true or false? Okay, you guys, that's it for me for this week. I love you so much, and I can't wait to hear from you, so please feel free to leave a comment for me down here in the YouTube chat section. You can go to whyourchat.com if you want to leave me messages there, or you can always call into my voicemail at 309-588-4569. Whatever works best for you works for me. I love hearing from you, and I'll be back next week to chat again about the show. Mwah.